Excellent. We're going to talk about payments on phones. Hey! Yeah. You guys are a tough crowd, man. I understand. Accepting payments or issuing payments on phones. And I'm in a Latin event. I thought I was going to speak Spanish, but we'll try the English way of doing this. So I tell you what, I'll start this mobile presentation on high technology with a quick question. How many of you are rocking a beeper? Any of you have a beeper today, a pager, two-way pager? I got a beeper. Let me show you. I got a beeper. This beeper has a lot of sentiment, emotional value to me, because this is how our company started, right? We patented the concept of tying a card reader to this RIM 950 pager, and it became the first system that a taxi driver really used, user-friendly, robust, cost-effective way for a taxi driver to take payments on the road. So now, of course, we have all these kind of smartphones and all these kind of things. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you some of the things of what we do, and if the time permits, and you guys are all excited, as you all are right now, I can see you all motivated. It's powering me up, I tell you what. Woo! And if you guys are interested, we'll do some live transactions, and then we'll go to put this to the ground, because everybody looks like Superman in PowerPoint, right? I can show you a lot of great pictures on this whole mobile thing, and we all look great. Venture capital people love that, by the way. Good PowerPoints. But what I'll do is that I'll do some live transactions on phones, and I'll bring it down so you guys can actually see this thing working. But some things about the company. We are in the MasterCard building as the future of payment. If you recognize some of this technology that is accepting payments on phones, you see that we are to the far right. We are the only phone-based application in there that is doing contactless transactions directly from the phone without any type of peripheral device to take that transaction. We are one of the top 3 on the list of recommended mobile POS solutions. And we definitely work on the mobile wallet side of the arena as well. So again, accepting payments via phones or tablets, or issuing payments via phones or tablets. Some of the things that we're very proud of, and I'm not going to go in details into this, is that our solutions have gone through a lot of stringent certifications for security and related validations. So if at some point you need to take a payment, and it could be my application with your name on it, or it could be your application that at some point, whatever mobile application you have needs to accept a payment from a customer, we have an embedded payment component that will allow you to do that under EMV code, under PCI. If you're working outside of the US, in the US, you can swipe a card. All of you have MaxStripe credit cards. Around the world, you have chip-based cards, what is called EMV, so you need to be able to do that and accept PIN-based transactions. So there's a lot of validations and certifications to do that. Projects that you might recognize, and I think it's important that you see them. When you take an American Airlines flight, before there used to be a payment terminal per plane. Now they have a Samsung Note that you're seeing here on the picture per flight attendant. So when you're in the flight and you want to buy duty-free products, and you want to be able to drinks, meals, whatever you're doing, catalog products, before they will charge you with a regular, Verifone, Hypercom, a regular point-of-sale terminal. Now they're swiping your card through a Samsung device, and that is all Charge Anywhere technology with their brand on it. Something important in here, in the case of the American Airlines case, is that it was not just about payments. They knew that to have a closer relationship with their customers, they needed to change from a point-of-sale device to a phone that can do a lot of other things. And those other things end up, hopefully, with you buying something. And when you do buy something, Charge Anywhere kicks in. Things that we did for their particular project. By the way, their case study was cherished by MasterCard in their Acquire Forum that recently took place. And some of the things that are unique to this project that you don't get to see when you just see somebody swiping a card is that there's a lot of things taking place behind the scenes for this to happen. So there's some intent filters that jump from one application to the other. There's encryption, decryption of that transaction data. We make sure that there's no sensitive data left behind. Goes through the processor. There's an array of things that you do at the processor level as well. So I'm going to jump all this. Definitely something important in here is that we are doing millions and millions of transactions on the air every month in those little, air stores on planes from these phone devices. The one that I'm really going to take some time, and he was one of the finalists nominated for an award tonight, is the RBM project. And a lot of people talking about Colombia today, and this is a very important project for Colombia, and I tell you why. Because Colombia, first is how many people have bank accounts and things like that you probably have all these statistics already better than me. Second is it's a very cash-intensive country. So there's a lot of challenges when you have a country that, depending who you talk to, it will be 95, 98, 99% cash intensive. So you want to bring electronic transactions up in that country. Challenges that you have is that you really have, and what you'll see later on is you have 130,000 electronic terminals. There is 1.9 million merchants that should be taking payments electronically. So that gap between 130,000 terminals on the field and almost 2 million people that should be taking payments electronically is not going to be done with point-of-sale devices. It's going to be done through the phones. Of course, Colombia has some very unique security issues that you need to take care of. And they also happen to have one of the most successful wallet programs around the world that is called DaviPlata. And DaviPlata today is doing about 10 million transactions a month with 2 million users. But we go back to the same thing, is that if I give you money on a card, I give you money on biometrics on your finger, I give you money on a phone, you got to have places willing and able to monetize that for products and services. So one thing is to bring financial inclusion up by getting people into the financial stream that they were not there before. The other thing is that once you give money to those people, because giving money to people is actually fairly easy. I don't know why all these projects in the wallet for ISIS, for Google, to put money in people's hands is kind of fairly easy. The thing is that where do you go to monetize that for products and services, right? If I go today and I give you all $1 million on your phone, you will all die of hunger, right? There is not a supermarket that will accept your phone for payment. There is not a gas station you can put gas in your car for payment. So that part of acceptance is crucial. And that's why that project, and actually compare that to the US, just to give you a quick statistic in here. If in the US there's a lot of room for growth, and you have about 34 terminals per every 1,000 people, imagine in Colombia that you only got 3.2. So that really is a challenge in there. How do you bring the concept of accepting payments electronically so you can do an array of other things down the line? Because again, the point of acceptance is crucial and it has to work hand by hand with the point of issuance. So the bottom line is that again, 1.5 million merchants that are not being taken care of, only about 200,000 when you consider the ones that are working on paper. And this is why the solution came out. We're going to jump all this. An important part of this solution that is unique to any other solution is that it's doing EMV transactions. Again, very easy for you to see the models that have been popular in the US. But when you're working with PIN transactions and when you're working with chip-based transactions, EMV cards, it's a whole different conversation. And it's an important ecosystem that you need to put together to be able to pass the security that needs to go into place. A lot of issues about PIN translation, again, things that you will not see just by me swiping a card on a phone, which is what I'll do at the end in processing a transaction. So pretty much, if you can take a quick look at this slide in here, what that ecosystem is all about, and then I'll just connect the phone and do some live transactions. What you have in here is this program is mode of entry neutral. So if you want to pay contactless with an NFC card, that's what you do. If you want to swipe, you swipe. If you want to do EMV, you do that, with or without PIN, with or without signature. It is operating system neutral. This application was deployed on BlackBerry phones, on Android phones, on Apple phones, and that's quite an undertaking. It is wireless carrier neutral, so it doesn't matter who's providing the service to this particular merchant who's using this phone, is going to auto-configure to whoever is providing that service. Usually more important when you're talking about BlackBerry phones, and they're best, they have different kind of setups. From there, it comes into our gateway. That's where the rest of the magic takes place. And then we go on a one-to-one with the local processor, which is actually the people who deployed this project, Redevan Multicolor, RPM. And what comes back to the phone is only reference numbers. There's never sensitive data left behind. So reference numbers come back to the phone. Sensitive data is at the PCI Level 1 Security Validated Cloud. And then from there, all these merchants have an array of value-added tools that they can use. They want to take payments via an e-commerce site, they can do that. They want to have payment forms, they do that. bill presentment, they can do that, reports, and so on. So when they did this deployment, and I think this is part of the importance of this deployment, is that they were not just thinking about their self-interest. They had to think about the banks that they work for, what is important to them. Banks, pretty much what they want to do is they want to be able to get to new merchants, get to new deposits in places where they were not before. So any merchant taking payments, they don't have to open a branch in remote areas where they don't have access to it, because any merchant using their phone to take payments, that deposit is going to go directly to them. So it extends that footprint without truly having to have infrastructure in remote locations. You also have the telcos. The benefit for the telcos is an array of them, but when you have countries where most of these telecommunication companies already have 100% penetration, the reality is that there are no new customers to sell to. So there's two things that matter to the telecommunication companies. One, you want to make sure that you can increase your RPU, average revenue per user. Two, you want to make sure that you keep those customers and they don't go to the competition. So that's what this application does for them. And you can see it here working on the field. This is Alimentarte, part of the pilots. RBM took a lot of time in Colombia to do very deep pilots to make sure that we can clean out all the bugs of this system. And it truly is a project, not just an example for Colombia and Latin America, but it's an example for the world. There is not one project around the world of converting cell phones and tablets into payment acceptance devices that have the kind of security and the kind of validations that Colombia went through with RBM and the RBM Mobile project. It just simply doesn't exist. It's the only project with MTIP validations. It's the only project with EMV level 1 and 2 validation that has also PCI, payment transaction security validations, that at the gateway, before we do PIN translation, has a proper TR39 audit as an encryption support organization. So there's an array of things that you will not see when I just go ahead and swipe a card now that really go behind this project. Of course, multilingual, multi-currency, the application supporting mode of entry neutral and different operating systems. A lot of surprises. For example, if you can see this business in here, you know, some of the smaller businesses, and this truly is just a bakery, and that's all her business right there. And we were expecting about 10 transactions a day from little merchants like this. The first day we installed this solution, we got 65 transactions from that small location. So apparently, if you give the people the option to pay electronically, they will, and you just have to enable that. I'm going to jump all this. The actual real heavy, you know, their pilots, again, if you look at DaviPlata, DaviPlata with 2 million users still consider a pilot for RBM and for Davivienda. So their pilots are different than any other pilot around the world. And what they're doing now is that they're going live on November. So what I'll do, a massive production right away from the pilot. So what I'll do real quick, just so you can see what we're talking about, is that I'm going to connect my phone. Hopefully I can find the application here. The screen doesn't, all right, here we go. I'm going to have to lower the resolution. So what you're seeing on the screen is actually my phone. Happens to be a Samsung Note device. And what you're seeing in here is the device that RBM is using to accept PIN-based transactions. So different projects, you know, for some projects what you see around the world is this thing that you can swipe cards and that's good enough. For some other projects you need to do swipe and EMV with signature, you can do that. In the case of this application, what you'll see in here, I'm going to leave it in English. Again, if you switch the language of the operating system of the phone to Spanish, the app automatically changes to Spanish. But so everybody can understand what we're doing, I'm going to go ahead and leave that in English. It automatically connected to the device. This device is working via Bluetooth. So if I didn't leave my cards, we'll do a couple of things in here. One, we'll do an EMV transaction. I'm going to put my card in the device. Hopefully the projector won't die before that. So we'll do a $2 sale. These transactions, by the way, are live transactions taking place. It shows you the summary of it. Once it processes, I'm actually roaming in this area in here. So once it processes as an approved transaction, I get to sign on the screen. If there is a chargeback, and now I have that signature digitalized automatically as it took place. So in case of a dispute, I can have that signature available right there. So that's an EMV transaction. You won't see that on your regular Square or any kind of geometrical shape kind of application. We'll do a different kind of transaction now. We're going to swipe and do a debit transaction. We'll go ahead and do that. It's going to ask me to enter the PIN and protect my code. So I'm going to do that. Once I do, it communicates. It shows me the detail of it. That's a live transaction getting approved. And actually, in this device, we can also do, if I turn that on, contactless. This is a PayPass for those of you who haven't seen a key fob. That's a contactless key fob. And we'll do that transaction at Wells. It's crazy fast. You get to sign on the screen. A few more things that I'll show you in here that are worth looking into. This is not just a two-page application. So real quick, if you want to be able to, and I'll show you a few, there's over 110 configuration parameters. This thing truly replaces your point of sale at the palm of your hand. So if I want to change the industry type, I click on that, I change the industry type on that. If I want to send transactions to QuickBooks, so everything I do on the field is posting directly to my customer record or my accounting record within that customer. If I want to take taxes, if I'm in a tipping type of industry, by amount, by percentage, auto apply a given amount. And again, over 110 of these, I won't show you all of them, but GPS, where that transaction is taking place. When I go to the back office, I see the transaction detail. Was it contactless? Was it PIN, EMV? The map of where that transaction took place. If it's a taxi driver and I'm delivering somebody, I see exactly where I delivered that person and where I took care of that charge. And I think more importantly is that you have all tender types at the palm of your hand. So right here, if I want to take checks, transactions, and this is where the magic of financial inclusion also takes place. So in these transactions in here, you see that I can do credit and all the different credit transactions. If I got prepaid cards, we want to be able, for example, we have a very popular prepaid transportation product in Manhattan. There is no parking, so you have to take a cab. When you take a cab, you'll see these cards on the back of the seat, and it's going to say you want to save money in your transportation. You can go ahead and give this to the taxi driver. He's going to activate it at low value for you right from the phone. So as long as the company authorizes him to be part of the loading network, he can do that. Recurring payments. You might be an insurance company. I'm going to charge you the first premium when you go to my house. After that, I'm going to collect every so often from your phone. Cable companies, anybody that requires to take a recurring transaction. And in the US, not so much internationally, you can take pictures of checks and convert those transactions into electronic transactions as well, right from the palm of your hand. Finally, some of the other things that in here is where you will add wallet payments. So if your project allows you phone-to-phone payments, this is where you can actually have one-time password exchange or whatever that exchange is to be able to get paid from another phone into the merchant phone. Reports are very user-friendly. I want to see more data, I click on the plus sign. I want to see less data, I click on the minus sign. If I'm doing offline transactions, what happened in 85% of the airline fleets in American Airlines of the planes, I will have a list of transactions in here. I can see my log of transactions today, and if I want to see the detail of that, I click on the detail of that transaction. And there you go. So, very robust, very user-friendly, all of it at the palm of your hand. We also have mobile cash registers where you're moving line item detail. Having said that, I know you guys want to go take your break. Are there any questions that I can answer at this point? All right, gentlemen.
Can you process low, I didn't hear it from the beginning, but can you process low value payments like 20 cent, 30 cent, 40 cent transactions in a profitable manner? Or is there a transaction fee associated like the EMV transaction fees?
That's a good question. We don't, thank you for that. We don't sell to the user. So my customers will usually be payment processors, telecommunication companies, banks, and we also have a developer side of the business, and where you have your app and you need to take payment and you use our software development kit to enable that. So we don't control the front-end pricing that goes into that. In my case, we are providing technology. They license the technology and the capacity they need, and then they decide for the project. And what I see around the world is that different projects will have different advantages. For example, the Colombia wallet project is fully funded by the government. So it's free to the customer, it's free to the merchant, but it's definitely still making a lot of money because it's fully government funding based on the money they're saving. So that's the economics there, and they will allow any transaction amount. So the application technically doesn't have any limits of how low, of how high a transaction needs to be, even though it is worth mentioning that we have intelligence at the app level, and we have intelligence at the gateway level. So for example, different parts of the world, going back to Colombia, some cards and some transaction amounts might require a second type of ID. So what will happen is that when you do that transaction locally, it's going to tell you that is that bin range. I need the PIN, but I also need the ID number for this particular cardholder. So technology-wise, we have no limits, and we do a lot of things. Pricing-wise, will really depend on the deployment and how they go out to market. Thank you so much for being here for the presentation.